Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson. Today, for the first time, I've asked Kris Knauer. He's the Managing Director and CEO of Challenger Exploration, one of my favorite subjects. It's all about gold. And they've come out with their mineral resource estimate today. So it is a great time for you guys to sit up and take some notice. The other thing to note is Challenger Exploration have not been going out and talking to a lot of people because they've been very busy in Ecuador and Argentina. Got a big resource, big gold resource over there. So I'm pretty excited to hear what Kris has to say and all the updates because there's a lot of news. So sit up, take some notice. Kris, great to see you. Welcome to Small Caps.
Thank you for having me, Kerry. It's wonderful to be here and good to see your smiling face again.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, given this is the first time you've spoken to our community, can you give us a brief update on who are Challenger Exploration?
Yeah, so Challenger Exploration, South American focus, two assets. Main one in San Juan in Argentina, which is consistently rated the #1 mining jurisdiction in South America. We've just put out a 2.8 million ounce resource this morning. That's a 30% uplift on the previous resource. And I suppose most importantly, it's got a really nice high grade component. That previous resource, 2.1 million ounces at 1.4 grams gold. This current resource, the best 2.1 million ounces goes 3.1 grams. So we've doubled the grade of that. It's a significant asset now. Ecuador, we sit next to a 17 million ounce gold ore body, and we're getting some similar results, better than 500 metre intersections of ore grade material. It's a wonderful project, although I think Hualilan is so exciting that most of the effort's been going on there for the last couple of years. But I think all will be revealed on Ecuador in the next couple of months when we get our first resource out.
The market doesn't seem, and I did say at the beginning that you haven't been chatting very much. I mean, you're putting out announcements. That's great. But you've been doing a lot of work in terms of Argentina and Ecuador, just so we can understand it. Have you got different teams on each of those? Are you focusing more on Argentina? I just want to get an idea of where the focus for Challenger Exploration is at the moment.
Yeah, so the best way to look at it is what the rig count was. I mean, up until recently when we finished the drilling program, we had 8 rigs in Argentina and we've had 2 rigs going in Ecuador. We've now down to 1 rig in Argentina and 1 rig which finishes up shortly in Ecuador. So 80% of the focus has been Argentina.
8 rigs in Argentina, 2 in Ecuador, but you're going down to 1. Why is that? Have you finished drilling? I mean, that means
basically we finished the drill out. The deposit's got to the point of critical mass.
Okay.
It's 2.8 million ounces. It's still open in all directions. However, you get to a point where the market doesn't start giving you extra value. I take it to 3 or 3.5. I probably don't get any extra value. It's time to really get the project into production and generate some cash flow. And, it's going to be a really nice, easy project to get into production when it's got a high-grade core of, almost 1.6 million ounces of better than 5 grams gold sitting in the middle of it.
There will be some out there listening to this saying, Argentina, I'm not sure, because if this was in WA, I'm sure that your market cap would be 3 times what it is at the moment. And, the share price doesn't reflect the size of the deposit. Why do you think that is?
Look, Argentina is not without its challenges at the moment.
Okay.
We've got a number of the smarter UK funds are saying, we know there's going to be a change in election in September. And once that happens, we want to own the stock. Argentina's got 100% inflation. It's really been difficult there for the past 6 months. Hasn't affected our operations. But you do have that. You have a broker goes out to try and organise a few meetings, and 75% of the responses are, they're in Argentina, we don't want to take a meeting, which quite frankly is an opportunity because you convince those people that the country is okay. You've got BHP now taking a bigger stake. You've got Rio's bought a lithium asset in Argentina. You're starting to see some of the Fortescue's in Argentina. You're starting to see some of the bigger majors having a really good look at Argentina and going in there. And I think, post a change in elections in September, that accelerates and you probably get swamped. I think.
How confident, when you say there's going to be a government change, how confident are you? I mean, the election hasn't happened.
Well, given the current vice president's under house arrest for embezzlement.
Oh, whoops.
Probably the
Okay.
most, look, they're a Labor government whose economic policy is that it's okay to print money so long as you create jobs, hence 100% inflation. The incoming government's policy is pretty much like the Liberals, and it's not dissimilar to us. Every time you have a Labor style or Peronist government, they ruin the economy, and then you have the other side come in and fix it up and things go back to where they used to be.
So you're pretty confident there'll be a change of government, that they'll get the inflation narrative a little bit more under control? Because look, Kris, inflation's rampant around the world at the moment, but probably not at 100%. So you think that that's going to change sentiment, and your project ain't going away? It's pretty big.
No, it's not. And look, it's gold. I mean, we're selling gold. We're not selling, something else. You can't burn gold.
Yeah, you can't burn gold, but one of the things you said earlier, going into production. So I mentioned earlier, you said 8 rigs down to 1. What I'd like to know is, I'm speaking to you on the day of the mineral resource update. What are the next steps? Because one of the things you mentioned was cash flow. Love that. Talk to us about how you get there.
Okay, so we're in the middle of a scoping study at the moment. That will be finished, mid this year. Because this resource, we've managed to get most of it into the indicated category, we can roll straight into a pre-feasibility study. At the end of that then lets us draw down stream finance. Now, we've spoken to some streamers about a silver stream, a potential zinc stream, and there's somewhere between $50 and $70 million available to us for a stream. Some will get up front, some during construction, but because of that high-grade core, we can start the project up and then expand it out of cash flow. So we're looking at 150 million US capex. So we can get half of the capex from a silver stream or a zinc stream. We've spoken to quite a few of the Argentinian banks. We can get project finance in Argentina. We're not going to be looking for much money to get the project into production. And you put 5 gram ore through the mill and you generate a lot of cash.
In terms of location and infrastructure, what is, because we don't have a visual right now, but describe to us exactly where you are and what sort of infrastructure you need to get this into production.
The best way to look at it is 100 kilometres outside of Kalgoorlie, next to a double-lane highway. So basically, we're 120 kilometres from San Juan, which is the mining capital of Argentina, population of 1 million, nearest thing you'll ever see to Kalgoorlie. Double-lane highway goes within 400 metres of site. We've just drilled some water bores. We've got adequate processed water coming out of those water bores. We've got power within 2 kilometres of site. It's 1,000 metres above sea level. We're the only project in Argentina that doesn't have to worry about glacial laws because we're nowhere near a glacier, and we sit on granted mining leases.
That's important to know. So you're sitting on, so you don't have to go through that challenge.
No, it won't be a massive exercise to get permitted.
Yeah. Okay. So does that take a while in Argentina? Because you've got the mining leases, but now you go through the permitting stage.
Look, it will. I mean, it's a 6 to 12 month exercise. Okay. And the reality is you don't start to get permitted until you've done a pre-feasibility study anyway. So we've got plenty of time to get permitted. I mean, to be honest, we're getting chased by the governor and the mining minister now wanting us to lodge an EIA because they want us to be the next mine in San Juan. So wow. I don't think permitting when we go through it will be too onerous. You got to do it the right way, but we're getting the politicians basically saying to us, we want you to put in for permitting now.
Wow, that's interesting. So they're very pro what you're doing. Are there any other mines around you? Are there any other gold projects around you?
You do. So basically 4 hours up the road, you've got Barrick's Velarado mine producing 400,000 ounces a year of gold. About 80 Ks the other way, you've got Welcome-Arja, which is producing about, well, it was a 100,000 ounce a year producer owned by Yamana. And then you've got Troy's old Casposo mine 40 kilometres away, which they're just at the point where they're starting to get to critical mass to restart that operation. I think they've got a couple of 100,000 ounces of reserves. Where the issue is Velaredo is due to close in 2027. Welcomarja has just been placed on care and maintenance. So if you're a government who's used to collecting 3% gold royalty, your two biggest sources of royalty are just about to dry up and you need something to replace it. Hence, they're pretty keen for us to get into production.
Would you look at, do they have processing plants in any of those districts that you would look at trucking ore to them rather than building your own processing plant?
Wouldn't truck the ore, but yes, there's probably some interesting things we can do with getting bits of their gear secondhand.
So, which will help with the overall capital cost.
It'll knock the capex right down. I mean, look, having said that, we'll come out with this scoping study and we'll be conservative and assume it's new gear, but it probably won't be.
Okay. All right. That's okay. Give me an overview of timing of this, because everybody loves to say they're going to go into production. Are we talking 4 years, 5 years, shorter?
3 to 4. I mean, anyone who sits here and says they've just got a resource out and they're going to go into production in 3 years is full of shit.
That's a technical term, ladies and gentlemen.
So, look, late 2025, early 2026, and you just can't do it any sooner than that.
Okay. So that's Argentina. Before I could move on to Ecuador, with that project and the current resource, are you going to be spending any more money on exploration? Because you just said before that it's open in all directions.
We are. Look, the real upside here is we've got 25 kilometres of strike that we're only just starting to explore now, and that's a tremendous opportunity. You don't find 3 million ounce ore bodies by themselves. The best place to find a 3 million ounce ore body is next to a 3 million ounce ore body. We've split the team up into northern and southern regional teams. For the last 2 months, they've been out scouring all the hills, sampling, channel sampling, rock chip sampling. And, they're getting some pretty interesting grades back as well. We're still just putting it together. But that's the most exciting thing. I think, we've got 25 kilometres where no one's ever looked. It's all the same strike. We now know there's mineralisation. We've got some mineralisation 5 kilometres away from Hualilan that we're only just starting to look at. We get one drill hole that finds what looks like it could be a repeat of Hualilan. And, we're going to have to be unlucky if there's not another one there. It might take a while to find it. But, one drill hole there, and I think our share price doubles overnight. And I think that's a far better way with a run rig to use shareholders' money than taking the resource from 2.8 to 3.5 million ounces, where we probably don't really get any uplift.
Okay, so what you're very conscious of shareholder value and giving that making sure that where you're going is the right direction down there in Argentina.
Oh, we are. I mean, look, the board between us own 22% of the company. We've got some very skin in the game, and we don't pay ourselves much money. This is about getting an outcome for shareholders, of which we are, some of the largest shareholders. So, we're really conscious of, you got to think about where every dollar goes.
Who else is on the board just before we go up to Ecuador?
Yeah, so we've got Fletcher Quinn, who is my chairman at Citadel. Scott Funston, who's our CFO. Scotty was basically the CFO of a banker, which took a Brazilian property through exploration into production. You've got Sergio Rotondo. Sergio owns 10% of the company. He was the original owner of the assets. And when we bought the Argentinian asset, we paid, I think it was 90 million shares and $5 million cash. All of the other vendors or partners of Sergio took the cash and he took the shares. So that tells you that he's a big picture person. And we've just put on a new US board member, Penny Aldhouse. Penny was the CEO of USA Rare Earths, which went from nothing to $1.5 billion valuation. He's there to basically start to get us into that US market. He's only been on the board for about 6 weeks. So we're just starting now, getting some awareness with some of the US gold funds.
Do you think the US gold funds understand the Argentinian Ecuador story better than the Aussies do?
They will when we get over and explain it to them. We've spoken to a couple of brokers, but yes, they will. I mean, it's in their backyard. Most Latin American companies or companies with Latin American projects are listed on the TSX or over in the States.
Would you consider doing a secondary listing on the TSXV?
Yeah, no, it's something we'll look at. I mean, it may be a case that if the market doesn't give us value for Ecuador, we maybe go and list Ecuador, our Ecuadorian assets over there.
That's a great segue into Ecuador, actually, because I do want to talk about Ecuador and what your plans are up there, because that's almost could be something in its own right, as you just alluded to. So let's talk about Ecuador.
Yeah, so look, Ecuador, southern Ecuador, we're not up in the mountains. We sit on secondary regrowth forest and farmland. We are right next door to a 17 million ounce ore body, big gold porphyry system. We've got the other half of that system. Basically, it's cut by tenement boundary. Some of the intercepts we've been getting are 500 metres at 0.5 and 0.6 grams gold equivalent. We've got a hole that's 230 metres, I think, at 1.4 grams gold. Unlike next door, we've got some high grades. We've got a hole that's 50 metres at 5 and another hole that's 104 metres at 2.4 grams. So, we've got a big bulk gold system. And, quite frankly, I think we end up with something similar to what next door's got. And for us, the logical thing is you put together two groups of 15, 20 million ounces and you got 40 million ounces, and it's something every big gold company in the world is going to want to own.
Aha. So are you friendly with your neighbour?
We are friendly with our neighbour. We've been to their core shed, they've been to ours. They're actually running a process now, I think, to try and sell the company. We'll see what happens, what comes out of that.
All right. So what are you? I want to, I guess, dumb it down, if you like. For me, I want to know where you, Kris, as the managing director of Challenger, why this Ecuador project? Because you mentioned some numbers there, but it doesn't really mean a lot to me. So just explain it in simple terms why you like this Ecuador project so much.
It's going to be big. It's going to be one of the larger gold systems, discovered of recent times. It will be 15, 20 million ounces on its ear. Now, this first resource won't get it to there because this first resource is going to be on 2 of the 7 key anomalies we've got. But, anything that's got the potential to be 15, 20 million ounces, it's just got scale. You couple that with, high grade in it. We've had a couple of the majors talk to us wanting to farm in because unlike next door, we've got grade.
Ah, okay.
Having said that, the day that I farm out to someone, I'm a hostage with my 30 or 25%, and they're the only buyer, so we're not going to do that.
Okay.
I think we're at an inflection point with Ecuador where this resource that comes out in 2 months gives the market an understanding where they go, oh, okay, we can see why they've done that drilling there now. It's really interesting. And that's when I think we'll start to get some approaches wanting to do something with it, or, we'll get a significant re-rate. And then we'll think about, well, do we actually then do some more drilling? It's not expensive, and take it from, X ounces to 15, 20 million ounces ourselves.
Ecuador as a jurisdiction, is it an easy place to work, and are they supportive?
They are supportive. It's certainly not as easy as Argentina. The only thing with Ecuador you've got to understand is you've got to have community support. We've gone out there and we've set up businesses with the local women's society who provide our food, they provide our washing, they provide our accommodation. We've built a water plant to get rid of the acid mine drainage coming out. You've got to spend probably 3 times as much on environmental and community in Ecuador as you do in Argentina. You've just got to accept that. It's not difficult if you do it the right way. And you've also got to have Ecuadorian people on the ground. You can't fly in 3 or 4 high-priced expats.
Oh, really? So it's got to be all Ecuadorian people?
Not all. I mean, we've got our Aussie exploration manager. We've got a US exploration manager who's a US-based geo who's head of Ecuador. But our country manager is Ecuadorian. We bring in a couple of expats with some good Ecuadorian geologists to do the work. Okay,
got it. So in terms of, I guess, looking at the big picture, for you, Kris, if you were to, because it seems to me like these are 2 big projects which need attention. How do you manage that?
Very carefully with the money. Look, we've got 8 million in the bank.
Yep.
The spend's been done now. I mean, we're down to spending, $3 million a quarter, and we're trying to get that down while we run through study phase. So, yeah, we're not under any immediate pressure. We've got to recognise that right now the market doesn't give us value for Ecuador, so most of the money's got to go to Argentina. And look, that's logical. It's a nice, high-grade project that's got critical mass with simple metallurgy. It's going to be low capex. I mean, it's a dream, really. So we've got to focus on that.
Do you think the big boys are sniffing around and having a look at you, because it is a big project in Argentina?
We've had a couple ask if they can get into the data room, probably more than a couple. It's one of those ones, what I've said is, let me get a scoping study out so the market's fully informed, and then maybe we'll have a conversation.
Right. So they're sitting in the garden at the moment. They're not allowed to come inside the house just yet.
Just yet. I mean, there's definitely interest there.
All right.
And, again, I think that interest, the best time to go and generate that interest is when there's a change in elections and everyone is very comfortable with being in Argentina, or when there's a change in government.
Do you think that change of government's going to give a complete re-rate to Challenger Exploration when it happens?
I do. Yeah, I know there's a couple of funds that have said they want to own the stock, but they want to own it after that.
Okay. Interesting times ahead. We are running out of time, Kris. So what I want to do is, and fascinating story, by the way. So congratulations on, just as you said, doing the right work at the right time. But more importantly, you're in lockstep with shareholders, because you guys have got, 22% of the company. So you're very cautious with expenditure and making sure that there's shareholder value. Right now, I don't think the market's recognizing what you've got. So let's wrap it up, if you like, with 3 reasons you think people should sit up and take notice of you right now.
So look, reason number 1, and I'm going to dumb it down, we've got 2.8 million ounces in Argentina. You take our current market cap and we're trading at $50 an ounce. The Aussie developers are trading at somewhere between $100 and $120 an ounce. We're less than half that, which is silly. And then that ignores the big resource that's going to come in Ecuador. Reason number 2, we've got a massive opportunity in Argentina with this 25 kilometres of strike that is basically unexplored. You don't find 3 million ounce ore bodies by themselves. It's going to take some hard work, but we're going to be unlucky if there's not another Hualilan sitting there. And, the early results have been really encouraging. The team out there is, they're excited. They know there's another one out there. They want to go find it now. Really sort of reason number 3, we've been deliberately flying under the radar. I haven't done an institutional roadshow since October, November last year. In that time, our share price has fallen by 50%. You can't go out and basically put your foot on the accelerator when there's no gas in the tank. We've just had to sit there quietly, get this resource out, get the scoping study underway, get a resource out in Ecuador, and then we've got the ammunition to go out and say, hey, we're trading at less than half of what we're worth. So, we've sat there quietly. We haven't really done much. And, there's a lot of upside to come now with this Ecuador resource, this scoping study, where the market finally understands what the project looks like. So a lot of good news, and really we're only just about to start to tell it.
Well, I'm glad you're telling it on Small Caps, because we love bringing stories like this to our community. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. That is how you look at projects. And I love the way that Kris is in lockstep with shareholders. He's got skin in the game. There's money in the tin, but he's cautiously looking at what he's got. But 2 very good projects, one in Argentina, one in Ecuador, and it's a lot of news flow to come. So we will be talking to Kris again in the near future. But for now, Kris Knauer from Challenger Exploration, thanks for joining me on Small Caps.
Thanks, Kerry. It was a pleasure.